A car is a wheeled, self-powered motor vehicle used for transportation. Most definitions of the term specify that cars are designed to run primarily on roads, to have seating for 1 to 8 people, to typically have 4 wheels, and to be constructed principally for the transport of people rather than goods. The year 1886 is regarded as the birth year of the modern car. In that year, German inventor Carl Benz built the Benz patent motorwagen. Cars did not become widely available until the early 20th century. One of the first cars that was accessible to the masses was the 1908 Model T, an American car manufactured by the Ford Motor Company. Cars were rapidly adopted in the United States of America, where they replaced animal-drawn carriages and carts, but took much longer to be accepted in Western Europe and other, less developed, parts of the world. Cars are equipped with controls used for driving, parking, passenger comfort and safety, and controlling a variety of lights. Over the decades, additional features and controls have been added to vehicles, making them progressively more complex. Examples include rear reversing cameras, air conditioning, navigation systems, and in-car entertainment. Most cars in use in the 2010s are propelled by an internal combustion engine, fueled by deflagration of gasoline or diesel. Both fuels cause air pollution and are also blamed for contributing to climate change and global warming. Vehicles using alternative fuels such as ethanol, flexible fuel vehicles, and natural gas vehicles are also gaining popularity in some countries. Electric cars, which were invented early in the history of the automobile, began to become commercially available in 2008. There are costs and benefits to car use. The costs of car usage include the cost of acquiring the vehicle, interest payments, repairs and auto maintenance, fuel, depreciation, driving time, parking fees, taxes, and insurance. The costs to society of car use include maintaining roads, land use, road congestion, air pollution, public health, healthcare, and disposing of the vehicle at the end of its life. Road traffic accidents are the largest cause of injury-related deaths worldwide. The benefits may include on-demand transportation, mobility, independence and convenience. The societal benefits may include economic benefits, such as job and wealth creation from car production, sales and maintenance, transportation provision, society well-being derived from leisure and travel opportunities, and revenue generation from the tax opportunities. The ability for humans to move flexibly from place to place has far-reaching implications for the nature of societies. It was estimated in 2010 that the number of cars had risen to over 1 billion vehicles, up from the 500 million of 1986. The numbers are increasing rapidly, especially in China, India and other NICs. Etymology. The word car is believed to originate from the Latin word carus or carum, or the Middle English word cara. In turn, these originated from the Gaulish word karos. The Gaulish language was a branch of the Brythonic language which also used the word car. The Brythonic language evolved into Welsh where car, llusg, and carifel still survive. It originally referred to any wheeled horse-drawn vehicle, such as a cart, carriage, or wagon. Motor car is attested from 1895, and is the usual formal name for cars in British English. Autocar is a variant that is also attested from 1895, but that is now considered archaic. It literally means self-propelled car. The term horseless carriage was used by some to refer to the first cars at the time that they were being built, and is attested from 1895. The word automobile is a classical compound derived from the ancient Greek word autos, meaning self, and the Latin word mobilize, meaning movable. It entered the English language from French, and was first adopted by the Automobile Club of Great Britain in 1897. Over time, the word automobile fell out of favor in Britain, and was replaced by motor car. It remains a chiefly North American usage. An abbreviated form, auto, was formerly a common way to refer to cars in English, but is now considered old-fashioned. The word is still used in some compound formations in American English, like auto industry and auto mechanic. History. The first working steam-powered vehicle was designed, and most likely built, by Ferdinand Verbiest, a Flemish member of a Jesuit mission in China around 1672. It was a 65 cm long-scale model toy for the Chinese emperor that was unable to carry a driver or a passenger. It is not known if Verbiest's model was ever built. Nicholas Joseph Cugnot is widely credited with building the first full-scale, self-propelled mechanical vehicle or automobile in about 1769. He created a steam-powered tricycle. He also constructed 2 steam tractors for the French army, one of which is preserved in the French National Conservatory of Arts and Crafts. His inventions were, however, handicapped by problems with water supply and maintaining steam pressure. In 1801, Richard Trevithick built and demonstrated his Puffing Devil road locomotive, believed by many to be the first demonstration of a steam-powered road vehicle. It was unable to maintain sufficient steam pressure for long periods, and was of little practical use. The development of external combustion engines is detailed as part of the history of the car, but often treated separately from the development of true cars. A variety of steam-powered road vehicles were used during the first part of the 19th century, including steam cars, steam buses, phaetons, and steam rollers. Sentiment against them led to the Locomotive Acts of 1865. In 1807, Nice Acute PCE and his brother Claude created what was probably the world's first internal combustion engine, but they chose to install it in a boat on the River Seine in France. Coincidentally, in 1807 the Swiss inventor François-Isaac de Rivaz designed his own de Rivaz internal combustion engine, and used it to develop the world's first vehicle to be powered by such an engine. The NIE Acute PCE's pyrolefor was fueled by a mixture of lycopodium powder, finely crushed coal dust and resin that were mixed with oil, whereas de Rivaz used a mixture of hydrogen and oxygen. Neither design was very successful, as was the case with others, such as Samuel Brown, Samuel Maury, and Etienne Lenoir with his Hippomobile, who each produced vehicles powered by internal combustion engines. In November 1881, French inventor Gustave Trouvé demonstrated a working three-wheeled car powered by electricity at the International Exposition of Electricity, Paris. Although several other German engineers were working on the problem at about the same time, Carl Benz generally is acknowledged as the inventor of the modern car. In 1879, Benz was granted a patent for his first engine, which had been designed in 1878. Many of his other inventions made the use of the internal combustion engine feasible for powering a vehicle. His first motor wagon was built in 1885 in Mannheim, Germany. He was awarded the patent for its invention as of his application on 29 January 1886. Benz began promotion of the vehicle on 3 July 1886, and about 25 Benz vehicles were sold between 1888 and 1893, when his first four-wheeler was introduced along with a model intended for affordability. They also were powered with four-stroke engines of his own design. Émile Roger of France, already producing Benz engines under license, now added the Benz car to his line of products. Because France was more open to the early cars, initially more were built and sold in France through Roger than Benz sold in Germany. In August 1888, Bertha Benz, the wife of Carl Benz, undertook the first road trip by car, to prove the roadworthiness of her husband's invention. In 1896, Benz designed and patented the first internal combustion flat engine, called boxer motor. During the last years of the 19th century, Benz was the largest car company in the world, with 572 units produced in 1899. Because of its size, Benz and CIE became a joint stock company. The first motor car in Central Europe and one of the first factory-made cars in the world was produced by Czech company Nesselsdorfer Wagenbau in 1897, the President automobile. Daimler and Maybach founded Daimler Motor and Gesellschaft in Cannstatt in 1890, and sold their first car in 1892 under the brand name Daimler. It was a horse-drawn stagecoach built by another manufacturer, which they retrofitted with an engine of their design. By 1895, about 30 vehicles had been built by Daimler and Maybach, either at the Daimler Works or in their Hotel Hermann, where they set up shop after disputes with their backers. Benz, Maybach and the Daimler team seem to have been unaware of each other's early work. They never worked together. By the time of the merger of the two companies, Daimler and Maybach were no longer part of DMG. Daimler died in 1900, and later that year, Maybach designed an engine named Daimler Mercedes that was placed in a specially ordered model built to specifications set by Emil Jelinek. This was a production of a small number of vehicles for Jelinek to race and market in his country. 2 years later, in 1902, a new model DMG car was produced and the model was named Mercedes after the Maybach engine, which generated 35 horsepower. Maybach quit DMG shortly thereafter and opened a business of his own. Rights to the Daimler brand name were sold to other manufacturers. Carl Benz proposed cooperation between DMG and Benz and CIE. When economic conditions began to deteriorate in Germany following the First World War, but the directors of DMG refused to consider it initially. Negotiations between the two companies resumed several years later when these conditions worsened. In 1924 they signed an agreement of mutual interest, valid until the year 2000. Both enterprises standardized design, production, purchasing, and sales, and they advertised or marketed their car models jointly, although keeping their respective brands. On 28 June 1926, Benz and CIE and DMG finally merged as the Daimler-Benz company, baptizing all of its cars Mercedes-Benz. As a brand honoring the most important model of the DMG cars, the Maybach design, later referred to as the 1902 Mercedes 35 horsepower, along with the Benz name. Carl Benz remained a member of the board of directors of Daimler-Benz until his death in 1929, and at times his two sons also participated in the management of the company. In 1890, Émile Levasseur and Armand Peugeot of France began producing vehicles with Daimler engines, and so laid the foundation of the automotive industry in France. In 1891, Auguste Doriot and his Peugeot colleague Louis Rigolet completed the longest trip by a petrol-powered vehicle when their self-designed and built Daimler-powered Peugeot Type 3 completed 2,100 kilometers from Valentiny to Paris and Brest and back again. They were attached to the first Paris-Brest-Paris bicycle race, but finished 6 days after the winning cyclist, Charles Tarrant. The first design for an American car with a gasoline internal combustion engine was made in 1877 by George Selden of Rochester, New York. Selden applied for a patent for an car in 1879, but the patent application expired because the vehicle was never built. After a delay of 16 years and a series of attachments to his application, on 5 November 1895, Selden was granted a United States patent for a two-stroke car engine, which hindered, more than encouraged, development of cars in the United States. His patent was challenged by Henry Ford and others, and overturned in 1911. In 1893, the first running, gasoline-powered American car was built and road-tested by the Duryea brothers of Springfield, Massachusetts. The first public run of the Duryea motor wagon took place on 21 September 1893, on Taylor Street in Metro Center, Springfield. The Studebaker Automobile Company, subsidiary of a long-established wagon and coach manufacturer, started to build cars in 1897 and commenced sales of electric vehicles in 1902 and gasoline vehicles in 1904. In Britain, there had been several attempts to build steam cars with varying degrees of success, with Thomas Rickett even attempting a production run in 1860. Santler from Malvern is recognised by the Veteran Car Club of Great Britain as having made the first petrol-powered car in the country in 1894, followed by Frederick William Lanchester in 1895, but these were both one-offs. The first production vehicles in Great Britain came from the Daimler Company, a company founded by Harry J. Lawson in 1896, after purchasing the right to use the name of the engines. Lawson's company made its first automobiles in 1897, and they bore the name Daimler. In 1892, German engineer Rudolf Diesel was granted a patent for a new rational combustion engine. In 1897, he built the first diesel engine. Steam, electric, and gasoline-powered vehicles competed for decades, with gasoline internal combustion engines achieving dominance in the 1910s. Although various pistonless rotary engine designs have attempted to compete with the conventional piston and crankshaft design, only Mazda's version of the Wankel engine has had more than very limited success. Mass production. The large-scale, production line manufacturing of affordable cars was debuted by Ransom Olds in 1901 at his Oldsmobile factory located in Lansing, Michigan, and based upon stationary assembly line techniques pioneered by Marcus and Bard Brunel at the Portsmouth Block Mills, England, in 1802. The assembly line style of mass production and interchangeable parts had been pioneered in the U.S. by Thomas Blanchard in 1821, at the Springfield Armory in Springfield, Massachusetts. This concept was greatly expanded by Henry Ford, beginning in 1913 with the world's first moving assembly line for automobiles at the Highland Park Ford plant. As a result, Ford's cars came off the line in 15-minute intervals, much faster than previous methods, increasing productivity eightfold, while using less manpower. It was so successful, paint became a bottleneck. Only Japan black would dry fast enough, forcing the company to drop the variety of colors available before 1913, until fast-drying Duco lacquer was developed in 1926. This is the source of Ford's apocryphal remark, "Any color as long as it's black." In 1914, an assembly line worker could buy a Model T with 4 months' pay. Ford's complex safety procedures, especially assigning each worker to a specific location instead of allowing them to roam about, dramatically reduced the rate of injury. The combination of high wages and high efficiency is called Fordism, and was copied by most major industries. The efficiency gains from the assembly line also coincided with the economic rise of the United States. The assembly line forced workers to work at a certain pace with very repetitive motions, which led to more output per worker, while other countries were using less productive methods. In the automotive industry, its success was dominating, and quickly spread worldwide, seeing the founding of Ford France and Ford Britain in 1911, Ford Denmark 1923, Ford Germany 1925. In 1921, Citroën was the first native European manufacturer to adopt the production method. Soon, companies had to have assembly lines, or risk going broke. By 1930, 250 companies which did not, had disappeared. Development of automotive technology was rapid, due in part to the hundreds of small manufacturers competing to gain the world's attention. Key developments included electric ignition and the electric self-starter, independent suspension, and four-wheel brakes. Since the 1920s, nearly all cars have been mass-produced to meet market needs, so marketing plans often have heavily influenced car design. It was Alfred P. Sloan who established the idea of different makes of cars produced by one company, called the General Motors Companion Make Program, so that buyers could move up as their fortunes improved. Reflecting the rapid pace of change, makes shared parts with one another, so larger production volume resulted in lower costs for each price range. For example, in the 1930s, LaSalle, sold by Cadillac, used cheaper mechanical parts made by Oldsmobile. In the 1950s, Chevrolet shared hood, doors, roof, and windows with Pontiac. By the 1990s, corporate powertrains and shared platforms were common. Even so, only major makers could afford high costs, and even companies with decades of production, such as Apperson, Cole, Doris, Haynes, or Premier, could not manage. Of some 200 American car makers in existence in 1920, only 43 survived in 1930, and with the Great Depression, by 1940, only 17 of those were left. In Europe much the same would happen. Morris set up its production line at Cowley in 1924, and soon outsold Ford, while beginning in 1923 to follow Ford's practice of vertical integration, buying Oshkosh, Wrigley, and Osborne, for instance, as well as competitors, such as Wolseley. In 1925, Morris had 41% of total British car production. Most British small car assemblers, from Abbey to Extra, had gone under. Citroën did the same in France, coming to cars in 1919, between them and other cheap cars in reply, such as Renault's 10CV and Peugeot 5CV. They produced 550,000 cars in 1925, and Morse, Hertu, and others could not compete. Germany's first mass-manufactured car, the Opel 4PS Laubfrage, came off the line at Rüsselsheim in 1924, soon making Opel the top car builder in Germany, with 37.5% of the market. In Japan, automobile production was very limited before World War II. Only a handful of companies were producing vehicles in limited numbers, and the vehicles were small, and three-wheeled for commercial uses, like Daihatsu, or were the result of partnering with European companies, like Isuzu building the Wolseley A9 in 1922. Mitsubishi was also partnered with Fiat and built the Mitsubishi Model A based on a Fiat vehicle. Toyota, Nissan, Suzuki, Mazda, and Honda began as companies producing non-automotive products before the war, switching to car production during the 1950s. Subaru was formed from a conglomerate of 6 companies who banded together as Fuji Heavy Industries, as a result of having been broken up under Keiretsu legislation.